We're the United States of America. Unity and oneness is what we're made of. One nation under God, it's plain to see. We're showing the whole world what a country should be. United we stand in America, hand in hand in America. Together as one in a land that we love. United we stand in America.
Wednesday, June the 10th, and I tell you what, it's going to be a hot and humid day. Dennis, I don't know, I should have had us turn off that fan. We're going to have a little technical issue. He'll go across the screen maybe, and we'll turn this air conditioner fan off. I tell you what, it is hot already, and it's going to be even hotter this afternoon, so sorry about that. We are live at the Axe Media Group headquarters in Springfield, Missouri, and this is show number 295. Over 5 years now we've been doing this. We welcome everyone today. I'm Lynn Morris, and as you see here, Dr. Mary Byrne, where is she? She is in Indianapolis, Indiana, at can you imagine? Education. She's at an education conference. She is an expert on education and works for the Senate and helps the House and is up in Jefferson City, but right now, they're out of session, but she's still working and learning and things like that. So hopefully she'll be back next week, but we're going to miss her. But we have a great show lined up today. Now, this is about Missouri. Now, we know that we have viewers in all 50 states watching right now, and we appreciate every one of you. And I still think you may be learning some things today. Done a little research. I'm sure that Curtis Trent, our guest, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Great to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here today, and you're the expert that we're going to be talking about Missouri wanting to eliminate Missouri personal income tax in the state of Missouri. I did a little research last night, and I'm sure that Senator Trent knows this, but there's 9 states. So you're already, some of these other states that are watching right now, you're going to hear about it, and maybe you can be thinking about how's it working for you in your state. Did it start off real smooth, or did it get better as time went on? But here's the 9 states, just where you'll know: Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming. Those are the states, the 9 states. Missouri is trying to be the 10th state, unless someone else has got it on the ballot somewhere in this country. The election is August 4th. It's a primary election. You know, Curtis, that there's going to be, I'm glad it's that date. I don't know where that's the date you guys wanted, or you wanted November, but you're going to get a lot of people out there voting, because August 4th, the primary vote in August on election, when they have election cycles, is very busy, and I think a lot of people need to weigh in on this. I'm hoping that we have a great turnout of people wanting to vote for all these different issues on the ballot. But one of the things I want to say before we actually get started talking about taxes is I hope that you'll take a pencil and paper and keep it close by. One of the first things, I attended another 94X Faith in Business breakfast yesterday morning. About 400 people were at the White River Conference in Bass Pro in Springfield, Missouri. And it's a great way to start out the day. Coach Perry from Nixa, the football coach, a strong Christian man and a winner on the field and a winner off the field, gave a great testimonial. And we have books, and I think that Dennis will show that book in a minute, but you can just send an email to 4321 ACTS at gmail.com, 4321 at gmail.com, acts@gmail.com. And I've got 5 more books. So Dennis, if you can show that book, we've got 5 more books that we're going to give away. Dennis mails books out to people all the time. And so we'd love, somewhere in this country, that you will read 94X, this book you're seeing on the screen, because it's an awesome book. It's an awesome theory about 94% of the time you spend your life at work. Think about it. 40 hours a week. I sometimes end up working 45 or more. But we'll say 40. And multiply that times 4 weeks, you got 160. An average person, they say, if they go to church, spends about 17 hours a month. There's no question that the mission field is where you work. And there's a lot of positive things that you can make out of that. So that's the book. Okay, let's talk about taxes. You know, Curtis, I was thinking about taxes. It's kind of like a 5-letter bad word. You know, you got a lot of 4-letter bad words, and we don't say those on the air. But taxes is one of those things, and you've been in public service many years, and I've been in public service a lot of years, and I'm just thinking, I don't know, even back in the 70s and 80s, I don't know whether people really liked taxes, but they didn't really say they hated taxes. Today, almost any tax is levied on them. They hate them all. And I see that all the time down the county level. And when I was with you on the state level, you know, we started to see that. But it seems to be, and I'll be honest, I tell people every day down in Christian County, I do believe taxes are cause and create a financial burden for all citizens, whether they be young or old. It's not just older people like me. It's on, because they always say things like, and it kind of bothers me. Well, you older folks, we're on a fixed income, so that's why it bothers us. Well, guess what? I've got young kids and my own kids in their 40s, and I've got grandkids trying to make it on their own now, and they're on fixed incomes too until they get their next raise. They don't know when they're going to get a raise.
They might not be fixed at all. It might go down.
Yeah, I mean, so everybody's in the same situation. The problem is I think since COVID, we saw a lot of large increases on expenses of all kinds, whether it be utilities, insurance, whatever. And the government, whether it be the state government, federal government, or county government, local government, we're on the same boat. We have expenses. Families have expenses. Government has expenses. And if you want the services that you want, that's public safety, fire, all the ambulance, all the things, roads, bridges. If you want all those things, it is going to cost money. And unfortunately, it costs a lot more money today. And so...
Well, I think part of the problem is that, over the last 100 years or so, people have seen government grow as a share of the economy from, around 10% to, by some estimates, over 50%, more like 60% of the economy. And yet 100 years ago, we still had roads, we still had police and fire, but the tax burden as a portion of our economy was much lower. And now people see this huge, massive increase in the burden of government on the economy, on them individually. And if anything, the core functions of government, the roads, the fire, the police, the things, the services that we all want, they're no better, or in some cases worse than they were 100 years ago. And so I think, public justifiably says, well, where's all that money going? What are we spending it on? And they're frustrated by by historic standards, an extremely high level of taxation at all levels of government, without a notable improvement in their quality of life.
Okay, and I agree with that. So what you guys have done and are trying to do, and it's a process. We're going to talk about this process, but the Governor Kehoe, which I served with him when he was the lieutenant governor, and I've known him for quite some time too. He has hung on and stuck to this thing that he wants to eliminate Missouri income tax, personal income tax for Missourians. And even though everyone wants less taxes, there seems to be a lot of controversy on Amendment 5. This is going to be Amendment 5. It requires constitutional change. And you're kind of the bill handler sponsor for the governor.
Yeah,
I
introduced the bill in the Senate. Ultimately, it was the House version that passed, but I was the Senate handler when that House version came over.
Now, what's the major difference between the House and the original Senate version?
So there were a few differences in there, but before we talk about the bill in its final form, or the proposed constitutional amendment, I think it's important that we set the stage about all the things that have gone on before we arrived at this point.
Let's do that.
Because this is actually a process that started back when you were in the legislature. Over 10 years ago, the General Assembly began passing trigger laws. And what these trigger laws did is they said that when government revenue reaches a certain level, the income tax will automatically ratchet down, 0.1% typically, and then it will slowly ratchet down over time, and by doing so, decrease the state government's dependence on the income tax as a source of revenue. And so that has been very successful. Missouri income tax started out at 6%. That's where it had been since the 70s. Governor Hearns had put that tax in place back in the 70s. It was actually very difficult to do. They had several special sessions. They had several votes of the public before they finally were able to get that tax increase done. It was a 2% increase. It had been 4%, went up to 2% to 6% in the 70s. And began to ratchet down. We're now at 4.7% after over a decade of triggers reducing the income tax. There are 2 triggers left, so we'll eventually hit 4.5% as revenues, allow those triggers to take effect. And the result of those cuts has been tremendous on the economy of the state. That 1.5% roughly represents around $1.8 billion in permanent year-over-year tax reductions. During that same period of time, the revenue to the state has gone up by about $4.7 billion. For almost every dollar that has been cut in taxes, 2.5 new dollars of revenue have come in to the state coffers. And I think that reveals a couple of important factors. One, that we were very overtaxed as a state, and it was a real anchor on the economy. It was dragging the economy down. And two, that the income tax is a particularly bad way to collect taxes. It is a tax that discourages productivity because it taxes essentially human labor, human productivity. And it is a tax that happens, based on your income, regardless of whether you spend the money, invest the money, no matter what you do with the money, the government starts taking it as soon as you reach those income thresholds, which are very low in Missouri because our tax is very old and has not been updated over time. So the work that was begun by the General Assembly when you were there has been very critical to changing the trajectory of this state, increasing the economic activity of the state. And so what we're doing today really stands on the shoulders of the General Assembly from before I was ever elected, when you and other legislators were there. So I really appreciate all the work that you did to help get us to the position that we're in now, where we can now take the final steps and we're in a position where we can potentially eliminate the income tax if people vote for Amendment 5 this August.
Yeah, well, I think that's really good. I'm glad that you kind of went backwards a little bit and just kind of gave us that history. 4.7%. I mean, that sounds kind of like a small number compared. How many other states? Where do we stand for the states that are still collecting income?
Yeah, so when we began the process, Missouri, very quickly became a leader in the region, being a fairly low income tax relative to surrounding states. But we've taken so long to get there that other states are beginning to catch up. And so, Mississippi, Iowa, some of the surrounding regional states are also working to lower their income taxes, which sort of brings us to another important point. This is a policy where it makes a lot of sense, one, to be an early adopter, because if you're a state that adopts this policy first, there's going to be a lot of investment dollars around the country that are going to want to come to that state and do business. And so Missouri really stands to reap a lot of benefits from all that financial investment if we're one of the first states to go ahead and make the transition. We're currently middle of the pack regionally in terms of economic growth, GDP growth, population growth, and I think this is the inflection point where we decide whether we want to be head of the pack, leading the pack in terms of growth and prosperity by getting rid of the income tax now before other states are able to do so, or if we want to slip to the back of the pack and be at the bottom of the economic ladder. If we fail to do this, we then stagnate. Other states around us capture all that early investment. So we're really making a decision right now where we want to be as a state 20 years from now.
Well, I think this is going to be a critical issue in the state of Missouri as to how we want to go forward. When I looked at the population, when I served between 2012 and 20, for those 8 years, our population was hovering around 6 million people. And then I think at one time we got up to about 6.2 million. But what is our population today?
It's still around 6.2 million.
So what I'm kind of getting at, the way I look at it, we're hanging in there, but we're not really growing. It seems like we got more people coming into Christian County all the time. It's one of our fastest growing counties. So we still have a lot of new people, and we welcome our new people from all over the country coming to Missouri and coming to Christian County. But on the other hand, it looks like our total population's not really growing. So I'm hoping.
It's interesting. If you look at population trends around the state, we gain a lot of population from high tax states. So California, New York, particularly Illinois, as you would expect, they are on our border. And so it's very easy for people just to cross over to our side. But we also lose a lot of population. And interestingly, one of the states that we lose a lot of population to is Tennessee. Which doesn't have an income tax, and which steadily grows at a rate that is better than ours. So if you look at all states and their economic growth profiles, they tend to mirror the federal growth pattern. And that makes sense because we're a piece of the national economy. And so it makes sense that the states would tend to follow the national economy roughly. But if you compare us and Tennessee, and we usually use Tennessee as a comparison because it has a population size similar to ours, it has an economic composition that's similar to ours, and one of the big differences between the two states is the income tax in terms of their economic profile. Tennessee, when the national economy is up, it grows more than we do. And when the national economy is down, it shrinks less than we do. So it consistently outperforms us year over year, with very few exceptions over a longitudinal study of its economic growth profile. And so that tells me that the policy mixes that they have in place, particularly lack of an income tax, is making a big difference in how quickly that they're able to grow. And we could do that in Missouri too. Now, of course, there are other factors that matter too. Judicial climate matters. Your labor policy matters. Your education policy matters. Like there's other policies that matter. No one is saying that getting rid of the income tax will be a silver bullet or will be magic. Exactly. But the amount of money collected by government and how that money is collected is one of the big factors in how people organize their economic lives. And so doing that in a way that is minimally disruptive to the free market pays big dividends when it comes to economic growth.
Well, very good. So just kind of in your own words, the ballot language. Ballot language is always important. The thing I've heard my whole life is a lot of people complain about every election because they don't understand the ballot language. They say it's confusing, it's complicated, it didn't tell them what they wanted to know. I mean, I heard that, I've just heard that on all these elections over time and stuff like that. So tell us a little bit about the ballot language. What's it going to say?
Well, so unfortunately, the courts have just changed our ballot language, and it looks like that's going to stick. And basically, what they did is they made the ballot language sound more negative than it did before. So the ballot language now talks about, that it would enable the General Assembly to raise taxes, and of course, it really doesn't. The ballot language or the actual constitutional amendment requires revenue neutrality. So because what we're doing is we're changing the method in which we collect taxes. And so in order to maintain that revenue neutrality, you're either, as you draw down the income tax, you're expanding the base of the sales tax from goods to services in all likelihood, and you are probably having to adjust the overall tax rate depending on how many exceptions get put in. Ideally, you want to have a tax base that is as broad and as low as possible. But there have been, the governor has talked about excluding things like health care and food from being part of the tax plan, and which makes sense. And so I think there will be a few exclusions like that, and that will cause the overall rate to be a little bit higher. But whatever the final sales tax rate is, that is going to be revenue neutral from a standpoint of revenue into the state treasury. So I don't think it's accurate to say that this would allow for any kind of tax increase, because it really doesn't. But I think the ballot language is going to mislead people into feeling like that's the case. Another place is that in Missouri, our state taxes and local taxes mirror each other. So if we expand the tax base, sales tax base for state tax purposes, your local governments will expand their sales tax base as well. The amendment requires revenue neutrality at the local level too. So local governments aren't going to get to keep that windfall. They're going to have to either give that money. They're going to have to give that money back to the public in one of a few ways. If they're a jurisdiction that has an earnings tax, they can use that money to lower their earnings tax. So that would be your big urban areas like St. Louis. If they're an area that has personal property taxes or real property taxes, they can use that money to lower their real or personal property taxes. And that's what the ballot language used to say, that this could lower property tax rates. That has now been removed by the courts. And of course, they could also use the money to lower the overall sales tax rate. But the key point that I think the ballot language now no longer accurately reflects is that this is an opportunity for property tax relief, and it is a revenue neutral policy that will not increase the amount of money that goes to government.
Was that the Missouri Supreme Court, or was that Judge Linebaugh and Jefferson?
So it was a lower court, but the Supreme Court, I believe, has refused to take up the case, and so the lower court will now stand as the rewritten language.
Okay.
And this has all happened just in the last few days here.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of reading.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I hear all the time from folks in Christian County and Southwest Missouri, because I'm all over Southwest Missouri, is property tax. I think if I picked one tax out of all the taxes that people dislike the most, because I don't like to use the word hate. So I like it. I tried to teach my kids when they were growing up not to say hate, okay? So you can dislike or you can say strongly dislike or whatever, but anyway, you know what I hear all the time is about property taxes, and you never own your home, and even after you own your home and it's paid off, if you don't pay property taxes, then they could sell your house, and I guess that's true, and I do see some sales on the court steps down in Christian County, and I never like that. But in Christian County, and I just want to point that out to you and our listeners today, and it may be happening somewhere else in the country or the state, is we're in a unique situation. We're extremely fast growing. We're almost at 100,000 people, which changes the level of first-class county. So we have to hire another judge. We have to do different things. There's different levels. So expenses will actually go up for county government. And at the same time, we're bringing in less money every year on sales tax. And people say, well, that's impossible. That's impossible. You got more people than ever, and how could that be? Well, what's happened in Christian County, and I don't think it's the only place in the country that it's not happening, but we have two things really hurting our county. One is that we have more and more people buying online. They just do. Even older folks like me. We older folks now are buying online. They're just buying lots of stuff online, and that percentage is growing a lot much faster, and so that hurts our brick and mortar stores. So we don't get the sales tax on that at all. The state gets their sales tax on any online purchase, but we don't for the county. The other problem we have in our county is that we have more and more people, it seems like, working outside the county. We just don't have enough high income, better income producing jobs in our county. It's getting better. We're working on it, but it takes a long time. And so they work other places, and they seem to, because I talk to people all the time, they seem to buy gas on the way home from work, not on the way to work. Everybody's trying to get to work on time. And then they're also eating out on the way home sometimes.
We've got a Buc-ee's now, so they keep going to Buc-ee's.
They can get a barbecue beef sandwich.
Conveniently located in Greene County instead of Christian County.
That's right. And they buy groceries. I've had women tell, well, it's just convenient. I get it on the way home. Well, no, we need to stay in Christian County. So anyway, I'm not sure. I'm not disputing what you say at all, but I'm not sure whether we're going to be able to reduce property taxes at all because of this amendment. But I do know that that's something the government still needs to work at. We don't want to hurt the schools. I don't want to hurt the other tax entities, the library, the senior fund, ambulance, fire. I don't want to hurt anybody. But I do want people to know, I want to use this as an opportune time. The county government gets 1.6% of 100% pie. And the schools get about 75% in Christian County.
Yeah, property taxes in most places, the vast majority of that goes to the local school district.
Yeah. So when I look at my taxes, because I own some other properties besides just my house and rental properties, but none of them are like, some of them $15, $19, $34. That's all it is. But then the schools could be several $100s, even $1,000 or $2, and the county's only getting a few dollars. So the legislature is the only people that could change that pie ratio, and I don't think you guys want to do that. But that's the only way, because people say, well, you just need to take less from the schools. We can't take less from the schools. You all are the ones that's figuring out that percentage, and I'm not really wanting to dispute it, but I just want people to know. They say, well, you should have plenty of money. Well, a lot of the counties around me, I check with commissioners all the time, presiding commissioners all the time. They don't have a lot of extra money.
I always hesitate to bring up a problem without also having a solution.
Yeah.
But what you're identifying here is a structural problem that is really one of the ways in which government is mismatched to the modern world. When the counties were designed, they were designed to be they were designed at the scale of the transportation that existed when they were created, which was the horse.
Right.
Like you wanted people to be able to access their local government by being able to conveniently travel to the county seat and be able to access the courts and whatever other services they might need to access from the counties. Now we have the car and the internet, which drastically increases the reach of the average person in their day-to-day commercial activity. And so you're seeing a real mismatch between where people do business and where they consume services. So they're doing business in Greene County, in your case, Christian County's case. They're coming up to Greene County to work, to do all their shopping, do all their business, maybe to hire services that are going to be performed in either, like maybe get a haircut, or, maybe they're hiring a person to come in and work on their home or do any number of things. And so they're paying taxes at the site of those commercial transactions, which is a different county than where they actually live. Mm-hmm. And so they pay all their tax money into Greene County or into Springfield or into some other jurisdiction. Then they come home to Christian County and they consume fire, ambulance, police, sewer, water, like all the things that they do locally. And there's really no easy solution to fix that it would require, consolidating counties or doing something to create a firmer match between where someone lives and where they pay taxes and where they consume their services. Mm-hmm. And they do things that are taxable. Maybe one solution would be to collect things like sales tax at a state level and then distribute that to the counties on a per capita basis, so that money would actually be going to where people live and not just to where they do business. But and that's why I always hesitate to identify a problem without a solution. That is such a massive political problem, like the ability to actually create a policy that could pass politically. I can't see a path to get that done right now, but this is a problem that's only going to get worse as we continue to have a modern technological society that allows people to spend their money in jurisdictions other than where they live, which is good, and we want that, but it's going to create a real challenge for funding and maintaining local governments, particularly in rural counties that don't have any kind of commercial or industrial tax base to draw from.
Wasn't there some talk in Jefferson City that the state has a use tax everywhere, so they're collecting money on any purchase made in any county in the state.
Yeah,
but
for
only
the internet purchases.
Internet purchases. But the counties that haven't passed it, we tried to pass it and didn't pass it because they just don't like taxes. I don't think they understood it, and we didn't do a very good job on the ballot language. That's the key, and that's what I understand what you're talking about. You're worrying about your ballot language because I don't think we did in the county a very good job explaining it. But it's kind of hard in a short amount of space and words.
Yeah, you have character limits on how much you can put on the ballot.
So that's complicated too. Mm-hmm. But I just see that I thought I heard, and I've gone up to several meetings up in Jefferson City where maybe during this process of changing the way we do taxes in Missouri, that the state might decide to do all counties and collect that internet sales tax.
I certainly think all options should be on the table for these things. And the way we treat internet at commercial activity, I think started out as many things in government as a with good intentions. The desire was not to strangle this new emerging technology with taxation. And that has allowed the internet to flourish and become a real driving force in culture and in society and in commerce. But now we've reached the point where we treat internet so differently than we treat brick and mortar businesses that government policy is acting to have a distortionary effect on the economy and is encouraging certain modes of commercial activity over others because of how these different modes of commercial activity are treated differently. And again, like free market economists will tell you, that you want to have a tax base that is broad, that is as low as possible, and is minimally disruptive to the way people order their economic lives. Like you don't want people making decisions about how they work, where they spend money, how they structure their retirement, or any economic activity that they're doing. You don't want them to make that decision based on government policy. You want them to make that decision based on what is best for them, what's best for their families, what's best for their business, what is most efficient. And when you're making decision based on government taxing policy, the chances that is also the most efficient policy and that decision, and that's also a decision that's best for your family and your business, is practically zero. So you really want to get the government out of creating incentives that shape and change human behavior when it comes to economic activity.
Yeah, very good. So, Curtis, the next thing is, what do you see the timelines? We'll say that people vote yes, enough people vote yes in this state, and so that's your first step. You're gonna vote to change the Constitution. But now, how long? What do you guys visualize? What's the governor visualize it's going to actually take to make this process completely done?
Right. So the amendment itself requires the legislature to act within 5 years. So there's a time limit on how long the legislature has to implement a policy to accomplish the objectives of the amendment, which is to eliminate the income tax. Now, I think we can probably get it done more quickly than that, but that's the window that we have in which to act. Then once that policy is enacted, how long it takes, I think, is going to depend very much on the economic conditions in the state, because it requires us to use a trigger system, and the trigger system is there to protect the integrity of the budget, to make sure that revenue is showing up to replace the lost revenue from reducing the income tax. And that's been one of the criticisms of this, is that, this could blow a huge hole in the budget. Trigger system is there to ensure that there won't be any large budgetary hole. Just like on the other side, you have the constitutional prohibition against any net increase in revenue. So how the economy responds to this change is really going to be the factor that determines how long it takes for it to actually go into effect. I think it will take around 5 to 7 years to get it completely finished once we start implementing it. Once we pass a bill to phase out the tax system and we put the triggers in place, I think the economy will respond very positively to these changes based on our history with cuts to the income tax over the last decade or so. We know that it has responded very positively in the past. I don't see any reason why it won't continue to respond positively. But admittedly, Missouri is at the mercy of national trends. And so if the national economy is having a problem, if it's struggling for whatever reason, that could delay the speed at which we hit zero.
Yeah, so very interesting. So very complicated. It's complicated if it's going to take that many years. So what are we trying to replace?
The length of time is really designed to create safety valve.
Safety, okay.
So we know that we're not going too fast, so we're giving everybody time to adjust their business models, time to adjust their prices, because prices should generally decline as this change takes effect. This is one of the other criticisms that gets leveled against this proposed policy change, is that it disproportionately impacts people who don't earn income, often retirees. What I think people don't realize is that the income tax, and ultimately all taxes, are paid by the end consumer. All those taxes get wrapped into the cost of a good and service, and they get passed on to whoever the final consumer is. And so the income tax is baked into the price of every good and service that you buy. I use furniture as an example. The guy who cuts down the logs in the forest, he pays an income tax. He gives them to a trucker who takes them to a sawmill. He pays an income tax. The guy running the sawmill, he pays an income tax. The woodworker who takes the boards and shapes them into furniture, he pays an income tax. The retailer who then sells the furniture to you, they pay an income tax. So at every stage of production, the people who are making the final product or final service to be bought are paying an income tax, and they're passing the cost of that on to the final consumer. So as we extract those income taxes from the chain of production, prices should come down. And then we'll have a great deal of transparency as well, because the only tax that you're paying is not hidden in the chain of production. It's right there at the final point of sale. You know, we talked about how much everybody dislikes property taxes. I won't use the dreaded H word either.
Yeah.
Dislikes property taxes. Well, part of the reason is that property taxes are extremely transparent. You know, around the first of the year, the government sends you a giant bill, a lump sum bill for your property taxes for the year, and that's shocking to the average person. They see how much money they're paying. I think people would have the same reaction if they realized how much they were paying in income taxes, but they don't, because it's hidden. It's hidden in the automatic withdrawals from their own income, and it's hidden in the cost of every good and service that they buy that they don't know is income tax based expense.
Well, I think that's a very good way to explain that. So it's going to take some time, okay? And during that time, so I think, well, right now, did Missouri collect about $9 billion this year?
About $8.5 billion in income tax, roughly, yes.
And they probably collect a little bit more each year.
Generally, yes. Generally, the economy is always growing, and so your income tax is always increasing in terms of raw dollars, even as the percentage declines. And as I mentioned earlier, the faster the economy grows, the more money comes in. And so as we've cut taxes, ironically, we've increased revenue into the state because the economy has grown that much faster.
Right. So we collected 8.5. I saw 9, but doesn't matter.
Well,
it's a lot of money. Billion.
Large amount of money.
Billion. It's a lot of money. But then you made some refunds. I'd read that maybe it was $500 to $700 million of refunds.
Oh, and that's probably where, when I say 8.5, it's after the refunds.
Net. That's probably your net number. And so, but if it keeps increasing, you're going to have to keep working on your triggers. So that's what makes it complicated, because as it goes up, you got to replace. Basically, you're trying to replace dollar for dollar, but not hurt the taxpayer.
Yes,
you're going to try to leave that taxpayer in a better position.
Not hurt the taxpayer, and also not hurt the economy, because we want. And I think, you know, the experience of other states shows that if we do this, we do it the right way, and we're successful. We're going to grow at a much faster pace year over year. And as someone once said, and I'm forgetting, it's a fairly famous quote, compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. And so the faster we adopt this policy, the more that compound growth starts to work for us. Because each year the growth is based off of the economic base of the previous year. And so the sooner you start growing, the faster those benefits compound to the economy and to the average person.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Curtis. Back when I was much younger, I've always bought a lot of securities, invested, but I also sold securities. I was licensed security, life, and health. So I sold all kinds of things when I first got out of pharmacy school, and I did that for several years. And I always called it the magic of compound interest.
That's right.
Because it is.
It feels like magic.
It is actually magic to see your numbers.
It feels good when it's working for you. It feels really bad when it's working against you.
So,
don't even get me started on the federal debt.
So I tell you what, very interesting. We're going to just stop real quick. Don't go away. I want to talk about our two sponsors. When we come back, we're going to ask Senator Trent to kind of wrap it up, do some final words of what he thinks about why we need in Missouri to eliminate the Missouri income tax. And so here we go. So the two sponsors that actually make this show possible, and I've had them for 7.5 years on my political talk show, and now I've had them for 5.5 years on this show, is the first one is Youngblood Motors. It's now called Springfield Nissan, Springfield Kia. And John Whittaker is the owner, CEO of Springfield Nissan, Springfield Kia. And actually, I just bought a Kia Sorento SUV Labor Day last year. My co-host, Dr. Mary Byrne, while she was driving back and forth to Jefferson City, she bought a Nissan Rogue and loves that car. So we do love our cars from this group. I tell you what, I have bought many cars from this group. I used to buy Jeeps when they sold Jeeps, and they actually give you great prices, great service. You just can't beat them. They're one of the oldest, maybe the oldest by now, in Southwest Missouri, family-owned car dealer. Over 45 years in the Springfield area. They sell cars in over 8 states. People from other states come and buy cars from these guys. So they specialize in Nissan, Kia, new cars on one side of South Campbell, and on the other side of South Campbell they have used cars. And they have a lot of cars that are cars that have gone through probably about 100 inspection points, and these cars are cars that will go down the road many extra miles, and they are really a great buy for a used car if you want to save some money that way. But phone number 417-882-3838, 417-882-3838. Susan will answer the phone. She'll get you to the right person, and I highly recommend these guys. I have used them for many years, and I've never been let down, so that's why they're one of my sponsors. The other sponsor that we have, and he's actually our oldest sponsor, that is Brad Pistow. And he is a certified fiduciary financial planner located right in Ozark, Missouri. And again, you're going to say, oh, I don't live in Ozark. I live in Oklahoma. I live in Texas. I live Hawaii. I live somewhere else in this country. We've got 50 great, beautiful states. But let me tell you what, this guy is licensed in 18 states. That's not all of them, but 18 states. He also has associates and friends that he knows in all 50 states. This man has written 2 books, both best-selling books on financial planning, retirement planning. The first one is Safe Money Matters. Second one is Bulletproof. Just think of the names. Safe Money Matters, Bulletproof. He writes articles all the time for Wall Street, for the USA Day, business section, financial section, just all kinds of things. He writes, he goes all over the country and speaks. That's why he knows all these people. He is one of the top in the entire country on financial planning. He has a belief that if you use his plans, you will never run out of life before you run out of money. I know as you get older, it starts to worry you that you're going to run out of money before you run out of your life. You ought to see the medical expenses I have. You ought to see all the things that happen to you in the golden years, okay? And so I'm just telling you, somebody like him, and guess what? He's got a bonus because his son is a licensed security agent, and I buy investments from him. You can buy gold. You can do whatever you want to do. And he's also got a Medicare specialist in that office. So for all the seniors getting ready to go into Medicare, they've got that covered too. So that phone number, 417-581-9222, 417-581-9222. The reason why I want to give you that number is because you can call that number and Lisa will answer the phone, and they'll send you a book. They'll send you a free book. They'll talk to you. There's no charge, either over the phone or come in person. There's no charge, and he can help you. He's helped many friends and family members that I have known, and grown to know over the years. So I highly recommend these two sponsors. I'm very particular about putting a sponsor on the air. I have to use them myself. I have to trust them, and we really appreciate them. So, okay, good enough. So what do you think? What do we need to tell? Because I'm hearing all kinds of things out there. I think one of the things I hear is not everything's already decided yet. So that's kind of a problem for what you're trying to do, because you are still in the legislature and they'll keep reelecting new people, people like you, but they'll also elect new people.
Oh, that's right.
And so you got all this stuff, and you've got 5 to 7 year process. And so they're worried about it.
Well, this is part of the reason why I tell the story of income tax reduction in the state, that it's been going on for over 10 years. Mm-hmm. Think of over that, I think it's actually like 12 or 14 years. So think of all the people who have termed out and been replaced over that period of time. Mm-hmm. And yet this is a durable policy. This is a policy that the people who the public elects and sends to Jefferson City have been committed to, and it has spanned far beyond any one individual person's term limits. And so I don't think there's any reason to believe that the composition of the General Assembly is going to change so drastically over the next 5 to 7 years that they will go in a radically different direction than they've been going in for the last 10 to 14 years. Mm-hmm. And so to me, this is a long-term plan that has been implemented by a very diverse group of people. You had a group of people who started this plan, who started this process, and then as they termed out, new people were elected, and they picked up the torch and they carried it forward. And so that's what I'm hoping will continue to happen. I believe will continue to happen. I potentially have 4 more years in the legislature if I'm reelected this cycle. And so I'm very committed to seeing this proposal through to its final conclusion. But if I'm not there, or if this goes beyond my 4-year term limit, then I believe that the people who come after me will also continue to carry this on, because I believe that this is a policy that the people of Missouri want to see happen, and their elected representatives are going to be responsible and responsive to that policy direction that the public wants to move in. So I don't have any concerns about the General Assembly dropping the ball at the 10-yard line and veering off into some radically different direction. I think we put this in the Constitution. It has guardrails that prevent this from being a tax increase. It has guardrails that prevent it from being a big hole in the budget. And so, the guardrails are there to make sure that you can't veer off, even if you wanted to.
And I agree with everything you're saying. So, well, let me ask you this: one last question, and we'll kind of wrap it up. But I am hearing that some of the people think, and these are low income people. But I'm thinking if they were low income to begin with, if they did pay any tax in, they would get a refund, probably. But maybe they don't even pay taxes. I'm not sure. But some people are saying they're going to end up paying more. And I know you already talked about it once, but I just want to make sure. That's what I hear the most. This is going to cost me more. Only the wealthy is going to come off well, but I don't know.
No, I think it may actually be kind of the opposite. So, right now in Missouri, we have a very low threshold at which you're paying the full 4.7%. It's around $9,000.
Okay.
Because again, the income tax in Missouri has not been updated substantially in a long period of time. The rate has increased. Back in the 70s, the rate was increased. But the point at which you're paying the full amount has not been adjusted for a long time, and so it's very low. So if you're earning any income at all in Missouri, you're very quickly paying the full now 4.7%. So the amount of money that an average person, someone who's making sort of the median or mean income, sort of the average income in the state, or even below that, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. If you're making that amount of money, you would essentially have to spend, I believe the math is $19,000 that you would have to spend on newly taxed items in order just to break even with the amount of money that you're already paying in income tax. And so for a lot of folks, that may be like just basically statistically impossible to do for them to do that. About a third of the economy is goods, and most of those goods already pay a sales tax. It's 4,225 in Missouri, the state level, and then whatever local level is added to that. So you know, most people, if you're on the lower end of the income spectrum, you're mainly purchasing goods. Mm-hmm. If you're wealthier, you're purchasing services. And so if we expand the base to include services, now you're capturing items that wealthier people spend money on. But again, keep in mind, the income tax is ultimately baked into every good and service that you're paying.
Yeah.
And so I think this is the real disconnect where people, they feel like they're going to pay the exact same amount they're paying now, but there will be an additional sales tax on that. But they're not going to pay the same amount that they're paying now because you're extracting all that income tax out of the chain of production, and you're lowering the cost of every good and service in society by doing that. So you're going to be paying a final point of sales tax on a less expensive good or service compared to what you're paying right now. So there's really no way in which this is going to hurt individuals who are not earning income or individuals who are on the lower end of the income spectrum. This, in fact, is going to give them more control over their economic lives, particularly if they're earning income on the lower income spectrum, because they now have to spend money in order to pay tax. And so it encourages savings, it encourages investment, and those are the kinds of behaviors that ultimately allow people to be economically successful, to accumulate wealth, to accumulate property over the span of their life if they're engaging in those kind of behaviors. You know, we've also done other things to encourage savings and encourage investment in the state, like getting rid of the capital gains tax, which was paid through the income tax in the state.
And I think that's a great thing.
It first in the nation to do so. That's had a huge impact on bringing investment into the state, and it's had a huge impact, you know, particularly on seniors, many of whom are, you know, pulling down investments and things as they retire. And so like we've gone to great lengths to try to help seniors in the state with that policy by eliminating the income tax on Social Security, by allowing seniors to freeze their property tax rates. So particularly seniors, there's already a lot of work has been done to protect their economic quality of life, to protect their financial situation. And now we're trying to take the final step and extend those protections to everybody else in the state, to extend those benefits to you know, low income earners and everyone else. Because ultimately we want this to be a policy that works for everyone, that's beneficial to everyone at the individual level. You know, this is all about making Missouri a better place to start a business, to raise a family, to retire. And it's also, you know, to take it away from the individual level and to expand it up to the nationwide level. This is important to the overall national economy. If we want to reshore critical infrastructure, critical supply chains, manufacturing capabilities, you know, production of rare earth minerals and other inputs that are critical to our economy, having a robust economic system that encourages investment and production is really important to that. And my hope is that this is a policy that will be mirrored, and I think you're already seeing that, will be mirrored in many other states across the country, that we will see a cascade of states get rid of their income tax, and we will see a national renaissance in our economy, and we'll begin to reshore a lot of our manufacturing capabilities that have gone to places like China, which is not a friendly nation to us, to reshore critical pharmaceutical manufacturing that in many cases has left the country and leaves Americans vulnerable to supply chain disruptions for their medications. That will allow us to reshore critical resource development like rare earth minerals that we use in our high-end technology and that we use in our everyday lives for things like telecommunications. America has some real strategic vulnerabilities because of how we have let our manufacturing capability atrophy over the years. And this is one piece of the puzzle that can help reestablish American independence and self-sufficiency in all those economic areas where it's eroded.
Well, I think that's all very good. Again, I agree with you. So one last question. I keep saying that, but I just,
We can have as many last questions as we need
well,
here.
we're going to run out of time.
Well,
so
time permitting.
But I think we've already run out of time. And so hopefully some people are still hanging in here, and they can watch this show 24 hours a day after the fact. But here's the deal. So it looks like to me that from everything that you've said, that if they vote for this in August, and we agreed to change the Constitution, it's going to be everything's not going to change until you guys.
That's right. They'll be implementing legislation, and that will go through that'll be the normal legislative process. There'll be committee hearings. There'll be public input. The public will still get to have their say. 100%.
But it'll just go year after year until you get it all done. And then it's going to happen.
Yeah, and the constitutional amendment says that once the income tax hits zero, it stays at zero. It can never be re-implemented without the public voting to change the Constitution again.
Right. So even if a party changes or a governor changes or somebody changes, you're not going to be going back and forth.
No, this will be a permanent end to the income tax again, absent a vote of the public to reinstate it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's just talk about you just a minute. So a lot of people, you've been on our show before. You're a personal friend of mine. I've known you for a long time. Here's what I like about Senator Curtis Trent. So first of all, he's an attorney, and I've dealt with many, many attorneys, and I have a lot of friends that are attorneys. Judges and everybody, but you know, and I'm not saying anything bad about any attorney, so don't get me wrong.
That's a first.
But Senator Trent doesn't ever. He's never. I've sat in committee meetings. I've been on the floor with him. I've done different things. I've never thought of him as an attorney.
Oh, well, thank you.
I mean,
that
honestly,
might be the nicest thing anybody said about me.
Yeah, because, you know, some people that I've actually debated on the floor, I knew they were attorneys, okay? And at the time, I didn't really like them too well while I was debating them. But no, you know, I think one of the marks of being a really good attorney is not acting like an attorney. Okay, so that's a plus. The other thing is you're a real people person. You can kind of tell by how he talked today. He is a people person. He cares about people, and that's a real plus. Okay, not everybody cares about all people. He does. He's very common sense. He's very smart, and he just does a great job. So you served how many years in the House?
It was 6 years in the House, 3 terms.
Okay. And then, you and I served together some.
Yeah.
And then you served 4 years in the Senate.
Which is one term in the Senate.
Right.
And so 8-year term limits in both chambers in Missouri. And so, you know, if I'm reelected, that would be my final term, and then I would term out.
Okay. Well, I try to be neutral as much as I can as an elected official, but I would encourage people in his district. Your district is?
Yes, the 20th Senatorial District is Barton, Dade, Greene County outside of Springfield, so I don't have the city of Springfield, and Webster County.
Okay. So kind of a rural area.
Yeah, a mix of suburban and some very rural parts of the state.
But I hope people will really look at him and give him an opportunity to continue to serve the people. He's got a vast knowledge of information that he's already learned by serving up there in Jefferson City and between the House and the Senate, and so does a great job. But Curtis, I appreciate you being here today. As always, you're very informative. You keep calm. You just state the facts, and so we really appreciate everyone watching today and hanging in there. We'll be back next week, same time. God bless.